Our next task is to elect a chairman of the Sumner County Commission. Mr. Good.
Chairman, I proudly rise to nominate a chairman that has done a fabulous job, as good as any I've seen in the past 24 months. I put in nomination for chairman for Mr. Scott Langford to remain.
Okay. Second. Thank you, Mr. Good. I'm told by Ms. Denny that we don't have to have a second on nominations. These are just nominations. Is there anyone else that wishes to have their name put forward as chair?
Motion to cease.
Okay. Motion to cease by Mr. Good. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Kruger. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. Let's, Mr. Kemp, do we need to vote on the board? Or? Okay. Let's do it on the board, and then I don't have to do it myself.
Election of chairman is on the board. Each commissioner, please record your vote. "22 votes are entered. All 24 votes are entered. Does anyone wish to change your vote? With 22 affirmative votes, you are elected chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Do we have any nominations for Speaker Pro Tem?
I'll nominate Baker Ring.
Okay. Baker Ring has been nominated. Commissioner Mo Taylor. I guess I need to ask this. Commissioner Ring, are you accepting the nomination? Commissioner Hinton, are you accepting the nomination? Okay. Commissioner Driver. Okay. Mr. Becker, are you accepting of the nomination? Oh, you moved on me, Mr. Becker, sorry. Order of nominations. So green is Baker Ring, yellow is Larry Hinton, and red is Jerry Becker.
Commissioner, please record your vote. "23 votes are entered. Anyone not voting, wishing to vote? Anyone wishing to change your vote? With 13 affirmative votes, Commissioner Ring is elected chairman pro tem.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kemp.
13, 5-5.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. All right, at this time, we will move to last month, if you remember, we nominated an interim committee on committees to do the work of preparing nominations. I'm going to yield the floor to Mr. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Per last month's business, what you were referring to, temporary committee was appointed. It's Commissioners Jerry Becker, Deanna DeWitt, Lauren Eccles, Paul Good, and Shelley Tucker. For explanation, for especially the newcomers, this is where we have the temporary committee to help work through the committees that Mrs. Lamar so graciously has put together. We'll have more explanations on that later. And what we normally do here, Mr. Chairman, you can address how you want to as well, is we would recess for the committee to meet for 5 or 10 minutes and vote on the slate and return. Thank you.
This time we will adjourn with no objections for, oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. We better elect the slate first. I apologize.
Oh, yeah. I so move.
Okay. Can you read those names again, Mr. Good?
I apologize. Commissioners Jerry Becker, Deanna DeWitt, Lauren Eccles, Paul Good, and Shelley Tucker.
Okay. Motion's been made by Mr. Good for that slate to be our committee on committees. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Rhodes. See no discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, let's put it on the board. Yeah, let's put it on the board.
All right, the election of the election of the committee on committees is on the board. Each commissioner, please record your vote. "22 votes are entered. Anyone not voting, wishing to vote? Anyone wishing to change your vote? With 22 affirmative votes, the committee on committees is elected.
Okay. We'll dismiss for 10 minutes. We'll recess until 6:27. We'll call the meeting back to order. I'm going to yield the floor to Mr. Good, Committee on Committees. If you'll give us just one more minute, Mr. Good, we'll let everybody get back. All right, Mr. Good, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Committee on Committees just met at your request and per our typical rules that we've done for the last few years. I want to briefly mention this because we have so many new folks, how we got to this from what's called a standing committee list and kind of this process. It wasn't that many years ago that we actually had a difficult time even picking committees, and we started a few years ago, especially with the help of Commissioner Trish Lamar, that always willingly chaired this, and where we did this process allowing each and every person to actually request what they wanted to be on, that they would feel where they would use their time best. And in this case, it has gone smoothly every time. She did this year's list as well, so she's the one that took your phone calls, emails, text, and some do a lot. But to work through here and do everything in her power to get everyone at least their first, second, or third pick. It doesn't always work out that way. With 24 people and 8 new people, as you can imagine, and the amount of committees we have, it's mathematically impossible for 100% of everybody to get 100% of their first or second choices. So I want to thank Ms. Lamar for that process again. These are only what we call standing committees. There are like 20 to 25 other committees that we will get an email from Ms. Dennon's office that come as nominations also through the executive's office. And you can request those as well if you so choose. There's audit, there's tax, there's agriculture, there's planning, and so forth. You might want to go on the web if you haven't yet and look at the lists that commissioners have the option to be on. Please do that sooner than later if you have other interests. And please email Ms. Denon and or copy Mr. Holt any of those requests you want. But these are by law and our rules, these are standing committees. The one committee I'm going to mention on this slate two things, again, back for new folks. Legislative is blank because, again, per our rules, the legislative committee is always the chairman of each standing committee. So that fills itself in automatically. The one not listed, but should have been listed, but that was my fault, and it doesn't change. Financial management is another committee, and the committee that's sitting there will remain there, and they'll do chair and vice chair this coming month's business. That is Jerry Becker, Commissioners Jerry Becker for the record, Chris Taylor, Caroline Kruger, Danny Sullivan, and by statute, Dr. Dale Phillips, Judy Harden, and Mr. Anthony Holt. The last thing I want to mention, especially for veterans, but newcomers too, so you'll know, on the bottom right is the beer board. For some reason, years ago, we somehow implemented that was some kind of a punishment to be on beer board. It was kind of but we looked at it as a more logical place. It meets every Monday night before the commission, 15 minutes before the Committee on Committees. So we made a decision, Leah agreed, Trish agreed, that why would it not be Committee on Committees? Instead of have someone drive up here that normally doesn't have to be here 45 minutes to an hour early, they meet at the same time anyway. They don't meet monthly for beer permits. It's county only. So we made Committee on Committees also beer board, and it would save a lot of commissioners a lot of time and a lot of headache. So, Mr. Chairman, I think that's all the explanations that is needed for this process. Everyone has the slate before them that was gone through this process, and I so move.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Good, second by Commissioner Kruger. Let's vote.
The approval of the slate is on the board. Each commissioner, please record your vote. $22 votes are entered. Anyone not voting wishing to vote? Anyone wishing to change your vote? With 20 affirmative votes, the slate is approved.
All right, at this time, we're going to do things. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Good.
One more statement, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Again, is the emphasis on the process. We try to accommodate where possible. For if by chance, and over the 4 years, you're going to probably serve on all of them, but if by chance you did end up, we do have a process, if you did end up on a committee that you don't like or want to try to change from. Our process with that is if after tonight or 3 months from now for that matter, if there's a committee that you really just don't like, you email myself as chairman or Leah or Anthony, when you technically retire from that committee because you've now been voted and put on that committee, and then asked to be reappointed somewhere else. Now, if you do that, we generally ask, like, you will go to one of your colleagues. Let's say you wanted to be on whatever, education versus budget. We ask you at least go to your colleagues over there and try to find somebody that's willing to switch, because of our statute and our rules, these certain committees with these numbers beside them, like 7, 5, and 7, we have to have that many members on that committee. So there is a process for that if there's a reason you don't like the slate as presented. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Goode. All right, just in terms of, this is my 4th time to preside over committees. So one of the things we've run into in the past is we used to just break out twice and vote, and we'd have people that got left off of a committee vote. So we're going to try to, it'll take just a few minutes longer, but I think we'll get better opportunities as we elect chairman. What we'll do is we'll break out into groups. You'll go to those groups and you will elect a chairman and chairperson and vice chairperson. And then if you'll report that back to me and Ms. Denon. And you also need to confirm your meeting time, and also let Ms. Denon know that as well. So first up, to the best of my ability, looking at it up here, I've tried to eliminate any overlap so everybody gets to be a part of their committee. There's going to be 1 or 2. It's just impossible with our numbers to have it work out for everybody. You know, communicate with your committee if you want them to wait a minute until you get done with one and go to the other. But I think if we break it down into smaller groups, it'll go better. So our first group, we're going to recess in just a second. Our first group up, if budget, will meet over here by Mr. Nipper, and if highway, will meet over here by Mr. Ring. Budget and highway, let's recess.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, Mr. Kemp, and thank you for the recognition. Mr. Chairman and fellow commissioners, I rise tonight to proudly renominate and put back in to repeat his term as chairman, Mr. Scott Langford. I can't, in the amount of years I've been here, and I know many on this side of the stage here, if you will, have felt the same way from the comments they've made, as well as citizens. And I put Mr. Scott Langford to stay as chairman to the commission. Mr. Kemp. So moved.
Okay. We have the name of Langford entered. Commissioner Kruger.
Do we second that? No.
Okay. Langford, Commissioner Graves, would you like to nominate?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Jerry Becker.
Okay, we have all right, we have 2 names placed into nomination. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Is there a motion that nominations cease? Okay, we've got a motion by Foster, a second by Kruger. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, we will have an election. So Langford is the green button. Once it's open, Becker is the yellow button. All right, the vote for chairman is now open. Each commissioner, please record your vote. "22 votes are entered. Anyone not voting? All 24 votes are entered. Does anyone wish to change your vote? With 17 votes in favor, Langford is elected your chairman. I will turn the meeting gladly back over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Do we have any nominations for pro tem? Ms. DeWitt.
I would like to nominate Jerry Becker as our chairman pro tem.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so we have Jerry Becker for pro tem. Ms. Kruger?
Baker Ring, please.
Okay. Baker Ring?
Move nomination.
Okay. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to cease nominations. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously.
The vote is open. Each commissioner, please record your vote.
Standing committees, Mr. Goode.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, first notification to the commission, full commission. Committee on Committees, as planned, had our chairman elections tonight in our standing committee. Thank you very much, and appreciative to mention that I was unanimously chosen to remain in that position. And of course, that committee has been voted on in quite some time. Mr. Chairman, everyone has on their desk this same process that we have gone through since 2015. I'll remind, some of this is going to be old news to some of you, so I apologize for that. Just a reminder for some others. This is the process that really Madam Lamarbe, a former commissioner, spearheaded when we, around 2015, changed it to where we kind of asked the opinions of people based on everything in their life. So the slate has been presented to you that is on your desk that you've all had. That was unanimous and that was debated in the Committee on Committees tonight and was unanimous to send this to the Commission, Mr. Chairman, and I so move as submitted.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Goode, second by Commissioner Eccles. Mr. Hyde.
Mr. Chairman, because of my schedule, I need to be taken off the Highway Commission, and that will leave me on the Emergency Services. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I should have mentioned this beforehand. I apologize to the committee. The other thing, and Committee on Committee will take Mr. Hyde's recommendation and we'll deal with it the following month. As we've always mentioned for the last few years is, if you end up on a committee, and I apologize, Mr. Hyde, I didn't say that in advance. If you end up on a committee that you have a conflict with or just simply don't want to serve on, in a perfect world, find someone else on another committee that might switch with you, but also either let the Committee on Committees, myself as chair, or Madam Law Director know, and we will bring that up again the following month.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Goode. Commissioner Mo Taylor.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, if you recall back, I think 2 months ago in legislative, I had a resolution brought forward to that committee addressing the overflow of the committee meetings, and you assured me that you would address that
Mr. Chairman.
tonight.
Yeah, hang on, Mr. Goode. Go ahead. About the time of when they would meet.
Yes, sir. Yeah, for the overlapping, and I haven't.
Yeah.
Another.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I can address that too.
Can I?
Hang on, let him finish.
Can I
Let him
finish?
finish, and we'll come to you, Mr. Goode. Go ahead.
So that was something that was brought to me by the citizens, because you can't be in two places at one time. And also, I can't serve on the Emergency Services Committee, and that was nowhere near one of my three choices. And I thought we used to be able to, like he said, pick somebody that was willing to replace you, and I spoke to my counterpart in the 1st District. He'd be more than willing to replace me on the Emergency Services Committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll, as mentioned prior, we'll obviously take that into consideration and deal with it next month. And I apologize to Commissioner Taylor for not saying this as well. I guess I got so excited I forgot the 2 other added announcements. But we will take that up next month.
All right. Motion's been made and properly seconded for our committee structure. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Anyone beside, I heard Commissioner Mo Taylor vote no. Anyone else vote no? Okay. Motion passes 23-1. Mr. Goode.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, continuing with Committee on Committees, as you can see from your agenda, Mr. Lanham, City of Gallatin, has still yet to make their formal recommendation, so that has been deferred. Airport Authority, Mary Jane Isham's term has expired. The county executive has recommended Don Abbott to make that replacement. It was discussed in Committee on Committees and unanimous, and I so move.
All right, Mr. Goode, I hate to interrupt you, but we need to elect the chairman and vice chairman of each chairperson. We tried to do like 3 and being spread. If y'all would like to meet right out here.
Going back to Committee on Committees, formal report for September 16, 2019, met in regular session. Mr. Lanham was deferred. City of Gallatin has not made that recommendation yet. Mary Jane Isham is not seeking the airport, stay on the Airport Authority and sent a resignation letter. Don Abbott is recommended 5-year term by the county executive. It was discussed and unanimous, and I so move.
Motion made by Commissioner Goode, second by Commissioner Becker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Goode.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Health, Education, and Housing Facility Board, President is Jim Anderson, and Dr. Rodley Rodney Runyon, both 6 years terms. It was discussed and unanimous. I also move.
Motion made by Commissioner Goode, second by Commissioner Mo Taylor. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Unanimous. All right, we'll roll on. Committee on Committees, Mr. Goode.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee on Committees, Mr. Knight,
Hang on, can you hit your microphone, Mr. Goode?
Committee on Committees met tonight in its regular scheduled time, and the business at hand was threefold. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the item that was added to the agenda tonight, the forming of the NPAP, Nonprofit Allocation Panel, that is submitted to you. It didn't make the committee, the original agenda, because it was just too late getting to Mrs. Dennon's office, and it was added to here tonight. The recommended folks to go on there is Commissioner Deanne DeWitt, Commissioner Jerry Becker, Commissioner Merrill Hyde, community member Brandon Webster, community member Zoli Dole, and a non-voting advisor, Aaron Birch. It was discussed and passed unanimous. I so move.
Motion made by Commissioner Goode, seconded by Commissioner Ring. I see no one in the queue. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, please reflect Commissioner Mo Taylor voting no. All right, motion passes. Mr. Goode?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, folks will remember when we passed committees that Chris Taylor has resigned from emergency services. Terry Wright has shown the overwhelming request of support for that. Commissioner Taylor is in support for him to fill his vacancy, and it was unanimous, and I so move.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Goode, seconded by Commissioner Becker. Mr. Taylor, do you want to say something? Oh, okay. Sorry, I saw him first. All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.